My name was Amir. I was a respected Qadi, a judge in the courts of Doha, bound by traditions that demanded unwavering loyalty to the Sharia. On the outside, I was the embodiment of authority and honor, yet inside me lurked a tumultuous void, a gnawing emptiness drowning in silent despair. I led others through the complex labyrinth of Islamic law, yet I could not navigate the shadows creeping into my own heart. Day after day I recited prayers cloaked in ritual, but something vital began to slip from my grasp. The words grew hollow, reverberating against the walls of a faith that felt increasingly foreign. I tried to push the darkness away, but it whispered questions I was unable to answer. What is truth? What is faith? And who am I in the grand tapestry of existence? Then came that fateful day. The courtroom was thick with tension, and I, overwhelmed and weary, suddenly collapsed into a chasm of near death. It was there, in the depths of that silence, that the world fell away, and I found myself before a courtroom beyond comprehension. In that mystifying realm, I encountered a figure radiating light, the figure of Jesus, who spoke my name with a tenderness I had never known. In his presence, the scales fell from my eyes, unveiling a war that occurs beneath the surface of our realities, a battle for the souls of humanity. This awakening was fractious, shattering my understanding of faith and igniting an urgency within me that demanded action. I returned to a world where rejection and betrayal loomed over me. My family and community viewed my transformation as treachery. Yet, instead of surrendering to despair, I sought truth in secrecy, exploring the scriptures that once seemed so distant. I prayed to Jesus, feeling the chains of fear dissolve, embracing the freedom and hope that had eluded me for so long. Today, I stand at a crossroads. The echoes of my past life challenge my steps into a new dawn. I feel compelled to share not merely a story, but a revelation that transcends fear, urging others to awaken to their spiritual battles. What I discovered will not only challenge perceptions, but could also illuminate a path for those lost in the shadows of doubt. Before we dive deeper, I want you to share your location with me in the comments. Where are you watching from right now? And if you love Jesus and wish to journey with us through more revelations, be sure to subscribe to Truth from Beyond. What's coming next isn't just a testimony, it's a transformation waiting to unfold. In the traditional courtroom in Doha, where the weight of Islamic laws and family honor hung heavy in the air, I stood as a Qadi, a judge revered for my dedication to justice and faith. Each day, as I presided over cases, I felt the immense responsibility of upholding the law while navigating the intricate web of human emotions and moral dilemmas. Yet, despite the respect attached to my role, I grappled with an unsettling void within me, a spiritual emptiness that lurked beneath my composed exterior. The silence that reigned over personal beliefs and spirituality in the court felt suffocating, so I pushed my doubts deep down, convincing myself that faith was something to be practiced in the shadows, not openly explored. One day, after a particularly challenging hearing, I returned to my chambers, exhausted by the emotional weight of the cases I had adjudicated. As I sat alone, the stillness pressed in on me, amplifying my discontent. I closed my eyes for a moment, seeking solace in the quiet, and it was there that I surrendered to the weariness that enveloped me. And in that moment of resignation, a surreal experience unfolded, one that I would come to recognize as a near-death experience. I felt my consciousness lift from my body, leaving behind the confines of the courtroom and the weight of my title. In that otherworldly state, I found myself bathed in brilliant light, where every shadow that had ever haunted me seemed to vanish. Suddenly, There before me stood Jesus, radiating love and compassion. His presence filled me with such warmth that I felt every sense of doubt dissolve into an overwhelming peace. As I approached him, he called my name and beckoned me closer. In that moment of connection, he imparted revelations that pierced through the fog of deception that had clouded my heart for years. Jesus spoke to me about the spiritual war being waged not just within my own soul, but in the hearts of people everywhere. A war fueled by the hidden agendas of the elite who sought to manipulate our beliefs for their gain. As he shared these profound truths, I began to see visions of the societal divisions that plagued humanity. I understood how fear and misunderstanding had been systematically employed to keep us separated. Displaced individuals fighting battles against each other, while the true architects of this division thrived in the shadows. The urgency of his message was palpable. I realized that the legal obligations I had upheld were often intertwined with these very manipulations, and I felt compelled to rise above, to be a voice for justice not just in the courtroom but in the hearts of those who felt lost and abandoned. When I finally returned to my body, the experience became both a profound awakening and a painful reminder of the fears that would await me. I was filled with fresh purpose, but I also carried the heavy burden of knowing how my revelations might be met by those who expected me to remain steadfast in tradition. How could I share what I had seen? Would my community accept this transformative truth, or would they cast me aside as a traitor to our beliefs? Each night, as I closed my eyes, I wrestled with these questions, longing for guidance and clarity. The awakening begot a fire within me, compelling me to seek out those who were also yearning to challenge the hidden agendas that infiltrated our lives. With every new conversation, I felt hope, and with it, the weight of my journey toward truth pressed me onward into the unknown. Would I find strength in my convictions? Or would the fear of losing everything I'd ever known prove too powerful to overcome? As a 35-year-old Qadi in Doha, I was trained to project authority and respect, embodying the ideals of my faith in every aspect of my life. People turned to me for guidance, and I upheld the laws with a strict adherence that earned me admiration from my community. Yet, beneath this polished exterior lay a profound emotional void, one I had grown accustomed to burying beneath layers of duty and adherence to tradition. The expectations of my role suffocated me, binding me to the rigid confines of what it meant to be a devout Muslim. Each day, I performed my obligations with a mechanical precision, all the while longing for a connection to the divine that I felt slipping further from my grasp. The feeling grew increasingly suffocating as the weight of my duties pressed down on me. Each prayer I recited felt like an echo in an empty chamber, a ritual without meaning. I often found myself staring out at the vibrant streets of Cairo, feeling like a spectator in my own life. In moments of silence, doubts crept in uninvited. Was this all there was to my faith? The fear of deviating from my prescribed path haunted me, causing me to suppress my questions and concerns. It was during one of these moments, burdened by an unbearable tension, that everything changed. One fateful night, after a particularly demanding day, I succumbed to exhaustion and fell into a deep sleep. In my dreams, a swirling darkness enveloped me before I found myself standing in a vast desert. Confusion washed over me, but soon, a blinding light shone forth, a light that beckoned me closer. As I stepped into its embrace, I was met with the figure of Jesus. His presence radiated peace and compassion, a stark contrast to the turmoil I felt inside. When he spoke my name, the sound reverberated within me, stirring something I had long thought lost. In that moment, I felt understood and seen in a way I never had before. Jesus proceeded to reveal to me the hidden truths that had long eluded my understanding. I witnessed the ongoing spiritual war that raged not only within my heart, but in the world around us. He showed me how the elite orchestrated a hidden agenda, using manipulation and deception to divide people and maintain control. I saw flashes of societal strife, not just distant wars, but also the conflicts within communities fueled by misunderstanding and fear. The revelation was jarring and liberating all at once. I finally grasped how deeply the fabric of our existence was interwoven with lies crafted to keep us placated and compliant. Upon awakening, I felt changed, and yet the reality of returning to my life felt daunting. I was overwhelmed by the clarity of my revelations, but burdened by the fear of the consequences that would follow. How could I embrace the truths Jesus shared with me when the very people who looked up to me might not accept this new path? I understood that my spiritual awakening would demand a courageous departure from the life I had always known. Would my community label me a heretic, an outcast for sharing what I had learned? As the tension of these thoughts swirled in my mind, I felt a powerful urge to break the silence, to become a voice for love, truth, and spiritual freedom, even if it meant stepping into the uncertain and tumultuous waters of change. As I began my daily prayers, a profound emptiness settled deep within my heart, and I couldn't help but feel the gulf widening between my faith and my spirit. Each recitation that had once filled me with reverence now echoed hollowly within the walls of my soul. As the mufti of the community, I was expected to embody unwavering devotion, yet behind the facade of authority, I grappled with a deep-seated crisis of faith. It felt as if I were standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into an abyss I had long ignored. I suppressed my questions, fearing that to entertain them would unravel the very fabric of my identity and those around me. The more I prayed, the more discontent I felt. I found myself questioning not only my beliefs, but the very influence of religion on my life. Was I living according to the truth, or merely adhering to a set of doctrines that masked my spiritual needs? With each prayer, I felt a growing tension within me, an internal conflict that demanded answers. It was during these moments of reflection that I finally acknowledged my yearning for something deeper, something that transcended the rituals of my daily life. I had begun to sense an awakening stirring within, yet doubt loomed large, making it difficult to embrace the changes I felt surfacing. One evening, after particularly tumultuous introspection, I fell into a restless sleep. The darkness that enveloped me soon transformed into a blinding light, and I found myself enveloped by a presence that radiated warmth and love, Jesus. His figure was luminous, and as he looked at me, I felt every fear, every doubt I had ever carried begin to dissolve. He spoke my name gently, and in that moment, I felt an overwhelming rush of peace. It was as if my spirit was being cradled, and at that point, I knew I had stepped into a sacred space for revelation. Jesus began to guide me through scenes that revealed the hidden truths of the spiritual war taking place around us. I saw how the elite devised strategies to manipulate society and perpetuate deception, creating division among people of faith. I was shown the pain and suffering endured by so many, driven by the fear of deviating from established beliefs, all while the true architects of this division remained hidden in the shadows. The urgency of Jesus' message resonated within me, igniting a fire of determination to enlighten others about the truths I had been blind to, truths deeply relevant to the current conflicts we faced. As I returned to consciousness, the weight of my experience felt unbearable, but liberating at the same time. I understood that this awakening was not just for me. It was a call to act. I was compelled to share these revelations with others, urging them to awaken from their own slumbers of ignorance. I felt a desperation to talk about the love and compassion that Jesus represented, to encourage those still confined by fear and tradition to step into the light of truth. Yet, in the back of my mind, the fear of rejection from my family and community lingered. Would I be shunned for my beliefs? Could I truly challenge the status quo without losing everything I'd ever held dear? As I pondered these questions, the journey ahead became clearer, yet it remained shrouded in uncertainty, compelling me to take the first step into the unknown. During a particularly tense court session, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. As a Qadi in Doha, I was accustomed to the stress of upholding justice within our community, yet today was different. I could sense the growing animosity in the room as the arguments escalated, a palpable tension thick enough to cut. My heart raced as I tried to maintain control, but suddenly, the room began to spin. I collapsed, the faces of lawyers and witnesses blurring into darkness. In that moment, my consciousness drifted away from the chaos of the courtroom, and I found myself entering an ethereal space that felt like a different kind of courtroom altogether. A spiritual courtroom, devoid of earthly constraints. The ambient light was soft, yet overwhelming, filling me with a sense of serenity I had never known. And there, standing before me, was Jesus. His presence radiated compassion, and as he looked into my eyes, I felt my pain, my confusion, and my burdens rise to the surface, ready to be confronted. Jesus spoke with a voice that resonated in my very soul, revealing hidden truths about the spiritual war that rages not only within us, but throughout society. He showed me how the elite manipulate the masses, orchestrating a hidden agenda that perpetuates division and conflict. I witnessed glimpses of how deception propped up false narratives, keeping people locked in chains of misunderstanding and fear. My heart raced as I realized how deeply intertwined faith, power, and control are, and the urgency of awakening from this slumber pressed upon me like never before. As the revelations unfolded, I felt compelled to confront the shadows within my own beliefs. The rigid doctrines I had been taught began to dissolve, replaced by the warmth of understanding and love. Jesus revealed that true faith is not a mere adherence to rules, but a dynamic relationship rooted in truth and compassion. I saw visions of individuals, families, communities, broken apart by fear, unable to find reconciliation because they were blinded by societal manipulation. I understood that I had a role to play in illuminating the truth, helping others navigate the complexities of their faith without losing their connection to divine love. Suddenly, the light dimmed, and I felt myself being pulled back to my body. As I awakened in the courtroom, the implications of what I had just experienced flooded my mind. My heart raced, not only from the physical shock of collapsing, but from the weight of the calling I had received. I knew then that I could no longer remain silent. The truths unveiled to me demanded action, a willingness to step beyond the confines of tradition and share my awakening with the world. I had to find a way to bridge the gap between my past and this new realm of understanding. How could I face my community and convey the love I had encountered while risking their rejection? The path ahead felt uncertain, but the fire ignited within me propelled me forward into the unknown, determined to share the truth of love, unity, and awakening that Jesus had shown me. Upon returning to consciousness, I felt an overwhelming wave of confusion and fear. I had just experienced something extraordinary, an encounter with Jesus that shook the very foundations of my beliefs. Yet as I lay in that sterile hospital room, surrounded by the hum of medical machines, I was acutely aware of the repercussions that awaited me. I was no longer just Amir, the respected mufti. I felt transformed into something that could threaten the careful structure of my life. The revelation I had received felt like both a blessing and a curse, and I couldn't shake the sense of impending loss that loomed over me. As the days passed, I faced familial rejection head-on. When I finally gathered the courage to share my experience, the reactions were swift and painful. My father's face contorted in anger when he heard I claimed to have met Jesus. "You've betrayed our faith!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the silence that followed. That single accusation pierced my heart like a dagger. In that moment, the disapproval of my family became a reality I had dreaded, engulfing me in a sea of guilt. I was lost in a spiritual war, raging not just within me, but also around me. A conflict that pitted my new truth against the traditions I had always cherished. With each visit to my family, the tension grew thicker, far more suffocating than the weight of solitude. My mother, once my greatest supporter, looked at me with a mixture of sadness and betrayal. I felt their disappointment like a heavy chain binding me to a life I was no longer sure I belonged to. I had expected some measure of understanding, yet all I encountered was the cold and unyielding grip of their fear. The fear that I had strayed beyond the paths laid out for me. The fear that my awakening represented a dangerous deviation that could shatter our family's honor. Despite this pain, deep within me simmered a growing resolve. The truths Jesus had revealed to me demanded to be shared, and the urgency of that mission weighed heavily on my heart. I felt an unmistakable call to reach out to others, to help them navigate their own spiritual battles. But the fear of losing everything familiar gnawed at me. I envisioned a world where the barriers separating us could dissolve, allowing love and understanding to flourish. There was potential for transformation in my community. But would I have to walk this path alone? Could those I once held dear ever understand the depth of my journey? Or was I destined to become a pariah, forever cast out for embracing a different truth? As I continued to grapple with my family's rejection, I sought solace in the fellowship of other believers who had experienced their own awakenings. Connecting with them became a lifeline, a shared experience of liberation that offered hope amidst the darkness. Together, we spoke of the hidden agendas that proliferated in society, the manipulation by the elite that perpetuated division and despair. Informal gatherings turned into sanctuaries of understanding, where we could explore our faith and the revelations we had encountered. Yet, even as I felt the warmth of their acceptance, the gulf between myself and my family felt insurmountable. I wondered if I could bridge this chasm with love and patience, or if the truth I discovered would forever separate me from those I loved most. The questions haunted me, propelling me further into the quest for deeper understanding and connection, not just within myself, but among all those who yearned for the light of awakening. Secretly, I began to explore the Christian scriptures, driven by an insatiable curiosity and the profound awakening within me. My life as a Qadi had revolved around Islamic law, guiding my community with the principles that had been passed down through generations. Yet, the emptiness I felt gnawed at my conscience, and I could no longer ignore the questions that surfaced. I would hide away in my room, poring over passages, each verse resonating with a truth that felt both foreign and intimately familiar. How could such clarity emerge from a text I had previously brushed aside? Engaging with individuals who had experienced similar moments of transformation became crucial for me. These conversations, often held under the cover of night, fueled my quest for understanding. I found solace in their stories, each one a testament to the divine encounters that had reshaped their lives. As we shared our struggles and revelations about Jesus, I felt the walls of isolation begin to crack. The more I connected with them, the clearer it became that the spiritual war one encountered wasn't fought solely within me. It was a battle that united many in our pursuit of truth. However, the weight of potential discovery loomed over me like a dense fog. The fear of being labeled a traitor haunted my thoughts. What would my community think if they knew I was drawn to Jesus and the truths he represented? I imagined the backlash, the scorn, the shunning that could come from abandoning the faith of my upbringing. Yet, simultaneously, a flame of courage ignited within. I realized that the pursuit of truth often demanded a great personal sacrifice. I could no longer remain on the sidelines, waiting for others to awaken. It was time for me to step boldly into my journey. Through my exploration, I began to witness the hidden agendas that perpetuate division and fear in our societies. As we discussed the mechanisms of deception employed by the elite, I felt an urgent call to action, an understanding that these truths needed to be shared widely. The impact of our conversations ignited a sense of responsibility within me. It was not just about my awakening. It was a mission to shed light on the darkness that blinded so many. I could see clearly now how the manipulation of belief systems kept people trapped in cycles of despair, severing their connection to the divine love that Jesus offered. Each day, the resolve to share these revelations only deepened. I felt compelled to spread the seeds of awakening, encouraging others to search for their own truth despite the risk of severed relationships. Conversations flowed with a sense of urgency. I began speaking more openly with those around me, sharing the insights I had gained. Yet, the shadow of my family's potential rejection loomed larger each time I bore my soul. As I navigated this profound journey, I couldn't help but ask myself, would the truth I sought to reveal bridge the gap between my past and present, or would it ultimately lead me into isolation? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, yet the urgency to uncover the truth called me to embrace the unknown. Empowered by the newfound insights from my encounter with Jesus, I realized my experience was more than just a personal awakening. It was a divine calling to warn others about the hidden truths I had uncovered. The urgency of this mission began to pulse through my veins, compelling me to break my silence. I felt charged with purpose, knowing that the spiritual war we face is not one of flesh and blood, but a battle for the hearts and minds of individuals caught in deception. These revelations had shattered the illusions I had lived under for so long, and now I needed to share this knowledge with those who were still trapped in the dark. As I walked through the streets of Doha, I noticed the familiar faces of my community, the people I had known all my life. Each smile, each greeting reminded me of the bonds we shared based on tradition and faith. But those very traditions now felt both comforting and stifling. The truth I had come to embrace stood in stark contrast to what I had been taught, and I felt the weight of that contradiction linger in the air between us. I sensed the hidden agendas at play, how power was wielded by the elite to manipulate our beliefs and keep us divided. The realization nagged at me, igniting a fire in my heart to expose these deceptions, while knowing it could very well cost me everything. I began attending gatherings with others who shared similar experiences, people whose eyes sparkled with the light of awakening. We discussed the revelations we had received, weaving together our stories of love, loss, and transformation. The sense of camaraderie filled me with hope. These conversations were vital, affirming the truth that we were all seeking something deeper, something that transcended our individual journeys. Within this fellowship, I felt bolstered, encouraged to confront the rigid structures that had dictated our lives. Yet even in this newfound community, the fear of rejection from my family haunted me. I held tightly to the vision of what could be, a united front against the manipulation that kept us at odds with one another and ourselves. As I prepared to share my testimony publicly, the stakes felt impossibly high. How could I articulate the profound love and truth of Jesus in a way that would resonate? I wanted to reach those who felt lost in their own spiritual wars, those who battled against the collective deception woven into the fabric of our society. I understood that my journey was not just for me. It was a collective quest that demanded courage and vulnerability. Finally, the moment came to speak. With trembling hands but a steady heart, I stood before a small group, willing to listen. I shared my experience, detailing the revelation of Jesus and the urgent need for awakening amidst the spiritual war we all face. I could see the intrigue in their eyes, a flicker of recognition as I spoke about the hidden agendas that oppress our understanding of faith. With each word, I felt my fears begin to dissipate, replaced by the overwhelming desire to shed light on the truth. Yet, I couldn't shake the looming question. Would this act of vulnerability spark understanding or risk deepening the rift with my loved ones? The answer hung in the balance, fueling my resolve to continue this journey of awakening, no matter the cost. In a courageous act of defiance, I finally decided to leave my old life behind. The decision to step away from my family home felt monumental, like shedding a skin that had suffocated me for too long. As a Qadi in Doha, I had always felt the heavy weight of expectation, conducting myself with the utmost piety while suppressing the doubts that lingered like shadows in my mind. But everything changed after my encounter with Jesus, the revelation prompting me to embrace a new identity and share the truth I had uncovered. Leaving was more than just a physical departure. It symbolized a break from the deception that had dominated my existence. The familiar streets felt foreign as I wandered through them, each step echoing my resolve to seek the truth. The air was thick with the scent of spices and the sounds of daily life, but all I could think of was the internal conflict that followed me. I was acutely aware of the spiritual war that raged not just within me but around me. I recalled the moments when Jesus had shared with me the hidden agendas at play in our society, how the elite orchestrated division to keep the masses under control. Every interaction with family and friends became laced with tension, as I feared what they would think of my shift in belief. In my journey, I sought out individuals who had faced similar awakenings. Gathering in small groups, we shared our stories, each one a testament to the power of love and the relentless pursuit of truth. In these conversations, I felt a sense of belonging I hadn't realized I was missing. Yet every time I shared my experiences, I felt the weight of my family's expectations pressing down on me. The realization that I was walking a precarious path, one that could lead to rejection, hung heavily in the air. But alongside the fear was an undeniable urge to share what I had learned, to warn others of the deception that surrounded us. As I continued to share my testimony, I was met with a mix of intrigue and skepticism. Some embraced the idea of awakening to a deeper spiritual truth, while others recoiled at the notion of deviating from traditional beliefs. In those moments of hesitation, I felt a chorus of emotions, hope intertwined with fear. I yearned for my loved ones to join me on this path, to understand that my awakening didn't erase my love for them but instead expanded my capacity for compassion. I realized my experiences were not isolated. They echoed the struggles of many living in the shadows of societal norms, a silent plea for freedom. The turning point came one evening, during an impassioned discussion about our responsibilities in this spiritual war. Faced with the stories of those around me, I felt empowered to step forward, declaring that we had a duty to challenge the hidden agendas that kept us fragmented. I implored us all to push back against the elite's manipulation, to unveil the truths that had been obscured for so long. It was in that moment of shared commitment that I realized my mission was clear: to empower others in their search for truth, even if it meant standing alone in my conviction. Would I find the strength to continue this journey and overcome the pain of familial rejection? The questions lingered, as the weight of my newfound purpose propelled me deeper into the unfolding story of awakening. As I actively communicated my transformative experience with others, I couldn't shake the weight of the challenges and suffering that often accompanied my new spiritual path. Each conversation served as both an outlet and a reminder of the tumultuous journey I had undertaken. After my encounter with Jesus, I felt a calling to share the light I had found. Yet the path to doing so wasn't without its hurdles. I quickly learned that sharing the depth of my awakening came with significant emotional turbulence. Friends and acquaintances from my past often reacted with skepticism or outright rejection. They struggled to reconcile the person I was with, the person I had now become. The spiritual war I found myself in grew more intense with every story I shared. I spoke of the revelations Jesus had imparted to me, the truth about the hidden agendas at play in our world, and how the elite manipulated information and faith to sow division among people. It was alarming, yet liberating, to see the world through this new lens. Each time I conveyed my experiences, I felt the urgency of the truth rushing forth. A desire to awaken those around me to the reality that often lay submerged beneath layers of deception. My discussions often highlighted the societal challenges we face: the wars, the social divides, and the pervasive fear that keeps us shackled. I spoke about how Jesus showed me that many are fighting battles they don't even understand, struggles over ideology, over identity, and so much more. I shared how his love broke through the confines of my fears, illuminating paths I never thought possible. Yet, as I witnessed the inner conflict in those I spoke to, I felt a deep sorrow. Many of my listeners seemed lost, bound by the very traditions they held dear. Describing my spiritual journey wasn't just about narrating an encounter with Jesus. It was about reminding others of the innate desire for awakening that exists in us all. I urged them to seek the truth, even if it meant confronting the discomfort that often arises in the pursuit of deeper understanding. Each time I saw a flicker of hope spark in someone's eyes, I felt the adrenaline rush through me. There is power in witnessing someone shift from doubt to curiosity, from isolation to connection, but the fear of my family's potential rejection still loomed over me like a thundercloud, threatening to overshadow the joy of my transformation. As I forged ahead, I came to believe that the journey didn't merely belong to me. It was a shared experience meant to inspire a collective movement toward awakening. We were in this spiritual war together, and each of us had a part to play. The more I spoke, the more I understood that my personal narrative could resonate with the hearts of many others, those searching for a way out of their own darkness. But with this realization came the unsettling recognition of the sacrifices I might have to make. Could I truly inspire others while risking the relationships that anchored me? As I navigated this uncertain terrain, the questions swirled around me. compelling me to delve deeper into my mission of revelation and love. Years later, I thrive in a supportive community that has embraced me and my mission. This journey, ignited by a divine encounter with Jesus, has led me to a life filled with purpose and the driving need to share the truth I uncovered. The friendships I've formed within this community serve as a powerful reminder of the love and compassion that exists when we unite against the spiritual war that rages around us. I am continually inspired by the stories of those who have walked similar paths, each tale adding another layer of understanding to the revelations we've collectively experienced. Yet even as I find fulfillment in this new life, my heart remains heavy with the longing for reconciliation with my family. They are still entrenched in the traditions that once defined my existence, and the fear of being forever estranged weighs on my spirit. Each day I wrestle with the nostalgia of shared meals, laughter, and the love that once filled my home. I can scarcely bear the thought of their disappointment and rejection if they were to discover how profoundly I have changed. Despite this pain, I hold onto the belief that truth can liberate those chained by fear and dogma. The message I carry is urgent. In sharing my experience, I aim to shed light on the hidden agendas that govern our world. Jesus revealed to me how the elite perpetuate deception through manipulation, fostering division among people. I see this now more clearly than ever. Wars fought not on distant battlefields but within the hearts of individuals battling their own divisions. During discussions in our community, we often delve into these truths, exploring how society has been sculpted by forces aiming to keep us in the dark. Each conversation is a step toward awakening, a chance to inspire others to rise above the noise and seek the light. But there are moments of doubt, times when I worry about my ability to make a difference. Am I equipped to face the backlash that could arise from those who may see my actions as a betrayal? I recall how my own awakening was met with skepticism, and that fear of judgment still lingers, especially when contemplating reconnecting with my family. The internal conflict between my burgeoning faith and my familial ties is a delicate balancing act, one that keeps me awake at night. Yet with each new encounter, I find strength in the belief that this journey is bigger than just my own. The awakening is a collective movement, calling us to challenge and uplift one another. As I share my truth, I can't help but feel a sense of responsibility to lead others toward their own understanding. In the faces of those who listen, I see the flicker of hope, a yearning for more than what the world has offered them. I dream of a future where love transcends the chains of dogma, where understanding reshapes the narrative, and where we all awaken to our true purpose. With every shared experience, I am reminded of the power of unity in confronting the spiritual war we all face. Although the path is fraught with uncertainty and fear, I know I must continue to walk it, driven by the urgency of the message and the hope that it can transform lives, including my own. Now that you've walked with me through this incredible journey, I invite you to reflect on something profound. Have you ever felt an urgent call within your spirit, a whisper that suggests there's a deeper truth waiting just beyond the veil of your understanding? The moments of doubt and despair we face may seem isolating, but they are signposts directing us towards something greater, something divine that binds us all. The awakening I experienced transformed not only my life, but the very fabric of my understanding of faith. I realized that this spiritual war is not merely my battle. It's a cosmic struggle that transcends time and space, engaging each of us in the great tapestry of existence. We are not alone, my friends. We are participants in a divine narrative that challenges us to awaken, to risk, and most importantly, to love. Love, despite the boundaries imposed by traditions, is the key that unlocks the door to truth. As you ponder these revelations, I encourage you to share your experiences in the comments. Have you felt the stirring of awakening in your own life? I read each comment and cherish the connections we build together. Your insights could spark a light in someone else's darkness, and together we can create a community rooted in truth and compassion. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. By doing so, you ensure that you won't miss the next wave of insights that could lead you even closer to the truths we've only begun to scratch the surface of. What lies ahead is a journey filled with hope, transformation, and continued revelations that could change everything. I'm Amir, and I'm grateful that you joined me on this adventure. Our path may be fraught with challenges and questions, but remember, in every struggle lies the potential for profound awakening. Until next time, keep seeking the truth that resonates within your spirit.